like a helicopter. Guy can see the past, the present, and he can look ahead like you're in a helicopter. You can see what's happening in the future. So he knows what Abraham will choose, and he's showing the people. He's showing all those people who read the Old Testament or the Jewish Bible, how he walked in the ways of God. Right? He was in Ur Kasdim. Father was an idol worshiper. It's in the Torah. He told him to leave Ur Kasdim. He left Ur Kasdim. He went to Haran. Another test. He went to Haran, and then he was told to go to the land of Canaan. Right? And with him in 12:5. Look at chapter 12:5 in Genesis. What do we have over there? That Abraham brought with him all the souls that he had made. He brought with him all the souls that he had made. 12:8, he built an altar, and not to offer anything. No, there's nothing sacrificed in those altars, but only as a platform to reach out, to educate the people in the belief in one God. Of all the proofs, look at the apple tree, already baked. Apples are there. A meal already baked in its skin. All you have to do is take it off the tree and eat it. Right? There's a meal served to you. Look at all the numerous events that occurred. Look at the peanut. Right? People don't know how peanuts grow, many of us. Peanuts grow under the ground, and they have a shell, a kind of brittle shell that you can snap with your fingers. And what do you have under the shell is 1 or 2 peanuts wrapped in tissue paper. Wrapped in tissue paper. A fine skin tissue paper, so to speak. And you can take this tissue paper off, and then you can eat the nut. But the peanut knew that it grows under the ground. And if you're going to harvest the peanut and you break the shell, you're bound to get dirt together with the nut. You're bound to get dirt mixed in with the nut. So the peanut, or Mother Nature, realized that, you know what, we have to put a tissue around it so that a man can squeeze the tissue off, and he can eat the nut, which is clean. Mother Nature is God. That didn't evolve, it's God. And forget what the media tells you. They found all these skeletons of millions and billions and years of age. First of all, all these prehistoric so to speak, dinosaurs were wiped out in the flood because they didn't get into the ark. And we don't know what the flood did on them. And we don't know how old they were at the time of the flood. And we don't know the carbon-14 data as to what the conditions were for the deterioration of the carbon-14 at that time, as we know it is in this time. What the age amount in time was recorded in the breaking down of the carbon-14 matter in vegetable growth. Or do we know the conditions of the atmosphere and the environment? What were they like to be able to have the bacteria at a minimum, maximum environment in which to attack the carbon-14. So but the point is, you know, and if they find a mistake in the carbon-14 data, you know, that New York Times puts on the front page when they found something that's millions of years of age, they automatically say, well, we made a mistake, and they bury that on two sentence somewhere in the middle of the paper, right? They bury that somewhere in the middle of the paper. But the Jewish people are up against a terrible attack from not only the godless scientists but also the media. For instance, I could just tell you about the BBC broadcaster of all the fake news that comes out of BBC. When Jerusalem, this show is being pre-recorded on November 18th, the 6th day of Hanukkah, right? The 6th day of Hanukkah, the first day of the month of Tevis, right? We just finished Kislev, now we're going to Tevis. So anyway, so here they had, it's just, they had the headlines. This is 5 days after Trump made the announcement, and you have the headlines, rioting in the West Bank of the occupied territories and dozens killed. They're not occupied, they're liberated territories given to us by God Almighty, 33-1 in number, that delineates all the boundaries. So how can you say he's liberated? Yes, they're liberated from the previous occupiers, right? They're not the true occupiers. The land of Canaan was not given to the sons of Ham. They were given Africa. They were to go down further into Egypt, into Africa. They stole that land that belongs to Shem. And Shem, the son of Noah, was given that land. And so we are the liberators. God will not forget the Jewish people, nor will he forget the promise that he made to the Jewish people in chapter 15 in Genesis. I will give you the entire land from the river of Egypt to all the way to the great river in Babel, and all that land in between. So God, and you think, how the Jewish people, they only got 11, 12 million souls in the whole world, and here they came right on through, and everybody's got their arms ready to gobble it up, the Christians and the Muslims, and the Jews are controlled. The Jews are in control. God rise the heavens for your benefit, it says to the Jewish people, 33:26 in Deuteronomy. God rise the heavens to help you. And you have to realize that those Jews out there, how lucky and fortunate you are to survive all these horrific times of being persecuted and still remaining a viable life in these 21st century. Right? What does it say over there? Excuse me. What does it say over there in World War II, the Jews went away. Jews went away from the Torah. With the Marxists and the communists and everybody equal. But the Jews are a people that dwells alone. That's what it says in 23:9. The Jews are a people that dwell alone. Let me die the death of the righteous. Let my end be like theirs. They are not to be accounted amongst the nations. And sure enough, in the UN, the Jews are denied a seat in the Revolving Security Council. The only country that does so much for mankind in the world is denied a seat in the rotating basis in the Security Council of the United Nations. Here, this is Europe. Here, it's one big concentration camp, systematically including all the Jewish people who lived in those areas, annihilating them and bringing them to annihilation. And here's a picture. Here, roll up your sleeves, children. We're going to set the numbers on you prior to killing you, gassing you, and then cremating you. Roll up your sleeves, children, right? And here the Nazis are, we're free, we're hiding like cockroaches. But there is no free ticket for you. You're not getting a free ticket. You may think you're getting a free ticket. Here's the pictures of the crematoriums, right? The Jewish slaves had to work night and day to fill these crematoriums and burn them till you have a smithereens of ashes, so that the Jews would be annihilated, even the Jewish children, because Jewish blood would always remain antagonistic toward the Teutonic people, right? So they had to do it. They were brainwashed and even kill men, women, and children to do the will of the evil inclination of Hitler and all those cohorts, and say, well, we got all free, listen, America came in, they hung a few of the top leaders, but basically we're free to live and we are free people. But you say there's a pasuk in the Torah, in the Torah that says in Deuteronomy chapter 32 verse 39, it says, I heal and I wound, I kill and I bring to life, and no one can save them from my hand. And no one can save them from my hand. Meaning, all those closeted Nazis and murderers who killed Jews throughout Europe and where have you, will be damned to eternal hell, eternal Gehenna, where the fires will never stop, where you will be always aware of the punishment and the pain you will receive continuously, right? That's what chapter 32 verse 39. Chapter 32 verse 39 in Deuteronomy. And you say, oh, okay, well, listen, they'll die, but they'll get punished, they, the murderers. But now we see that the noose is starting to tighten around the Germans and the Nazis in Europe, from France and the Netherlands, all the Nazis. You see the films on TV now where you have the Nazis from Netherlands joining forces with the Germans, and in Denmark the Nazis are coming forth, and in France they have a special brigade to support the Nazis in wiping out the Jews. And all of these people, they will pay the consequences. But the posterity, where are the posterity? They didn't do anything. The children of these Nazis are here. Well, what about the posterity of the Jews that were killed and never had a chance to have posterity? Here we see the posterity of the evil people are being punished. Right away we see already the Africans and the refugees from North Africa and the continent of Africa are coming en masse to Europe, and Merkel says, oh, well, we have to open up our arms and receive everybody because we're such kind people, we're such kind and friendly people, we're Germanic people, we must take them in. And when you have already the rightist party in Austria has come to power, and they're in the government, and there's going to be some conflicts. And this is the first hint of one of the plagues that's going to happen to the posterity. Mark my words. Germany will get it, and all those so-called evil friends will receive the punishment. Because courts are not a place for rehabilitation. The courts are a place for punishment. If you did something proven, then you should be punished. And that's what we're going to see. And today, the country of Israel, which is starting, I saw on the news that November 8th, 2017, that they're starting to realize that the terrorists who come along and stab Jewish people and maim them are treated fairly, and their wounds cured, and then sent to a prison where they're getting 3 square meals a day. And then when they make a prisoner exchange, they're out of it. they go back and honored, and their families receive payments for doing their terrorist works of stabbing people. But now that if the country was ruled by religious courts and religious parties and the rabbis who are steeped in learning Torah, and I'm talking about the reformers, or the reform after the Hellenizers and the Sadducees and the Karaites and the conservatives and the what do you call them, the Enlighteners and the communists and the socialists and all these other ideologies. All they want to do is take away from the wheel. We still see that the Jewish people live, and we still see a strong remnant of the people who carry on the tradition of the Torah. And just to think, in a very short time already, the organization like Chabad is already in 100 countries. 100 countries, where in previous generations we could not allowed to go to other countries, yet alone speak the word of Torah. So we're in 100 countries, subtly, quietly, and persistently. They are not like this program. Will tell you like it is and point out to you. You know what makes sense. Get out there and be a follower. We're talking to the Jewish people. Be a follower. Be a believer. Be a righteous descendant of your forefathers who perished or who survived with great difficulties to perpetuate the teachings of the Torah. Be part of that group so that we may be a light unto the nations. What does it say in Deuteronomy chapter 4:5? Deuteronomy chapter 4 verse 5. Buy yourself a Torah, buy yourself a Chumash, not from the hotel room Chumash. Throw that out, right? That's no Bible. That's fake news. They circumvent the words into how they want to believe them, and many times you skip over them and you fall asleep. But the point is, we have to learn. That's the thing. You have to learn Torah and Talmud, and you ain't getting it by going to the synagogue, right? You ain't getting it by going to the Reform synagogue, and you're not getting it by the Orthodox. All they're doing is announcing the current events and what a great sermon the rabbi gave. You have to work. You have to do the work. And that is the name of the game. He said, well, I didn't ever went to school. You don't need to go to school. You go to the bookstore and get a Talmud. Let me see if I have a Talmud over here. Get yourself a Talmud. Get yourself a Talmud. What is the Talmud? It's the oral Torah now written down. Here, you can learn. Tell yourself I'm going to do 20 minutes. That's it. 20 minutes a day. And it's all in English. With the footnotes here, right? They're with the footnotes. There's 72 of these books over here that covered all the oral Torah, right? Go to the Jewish bookstore, get it on Amazon, wherever you want. Just read the English. You don't have to know Hebrew. Nothing to read the footnotes, and you understand. Read the portion of the week, right? 20 minutes of the Gemara each night till it becomes habit forming, and in English read the portion of the week that we're reading in the synagogue, right? Read the portion of the week. Now, what are we dealing with now? November the 18th. This is recorded November 18th. Hey, don't forget, we have our website, firstshabbos.org. Firstshabbos.org. Check it out. It tells you firsthand experience of newcomers and how to buy the book, Judaism Makes Sense. And we're going to change one of the portions there to something else, but our computer man is not feeling that well, so. But the site is up and running. Here's the book through Amazon, Judaism Makes Sense. Where are we? So the point is, you have to learn. You have to learn. how many people went out to the stadium, throughout the stadium, watching the NFL? I mean, at least watch it in your home, but go and kill time freezing. How many people there? 50, 60, 70,000 people. How many Jews were there? Oh my goodness. And whose fault is it? It's the fault of the synagogues. And I'm talking about the orthodoxies, right? They ain't doing the job. They don't need to hear a sermon. You could write the sermon on a piece of paper and give it to them. They have to have at least 20 minutes of quiet time in before they have the Kiddush. Kiddush is the food that they serve after the prayer services. Before they serve the Kiddush, have everybody look into a Talmud, right? Into a Talmud, big stuff. You can do it. Even according to the effort, so is the reward. According to the effort, so is the reward. What was the story of Abraham, right? Abraham was picked. Abraham, our father, was picked as the one to lead the Jewish people and to lead to be the surrogate of God in this world, to bring them to a next world after 120 years with good marks, so they might earn a good seat. Everything is to get to the next world, to time to be born, time to plant, time to give birth, time to uproot. All these times, as it says in the Torah, you to choose virtuously, to choose righteously in all your efforts, and to stop the evil inclination. It says over there in the Torah, it says that sin crouches at the door. Desire is to you, but you can overcome. Sin crouches at the door, but its desire is to you, but you can overcome. I think that's in chapter 4, verse 9 in Genesis 4:9. Sin crouches at the door, its desire is to you. Then it says over there, the inclination of man is evil from his youth. The inclination of man is evil from his youth. Talking about the evil inclination that comes from the outside, and an outside force that attacks you and makes you think that black is white and white is black. You know, fake news. It makes you think not rationally, and that is the purpose of the evil inclination. People of the inclination has that ability to make you think incorrectly. To think, it gives you fake news, fake F-A-K-E news. But there's also the inclination of man is evil from his youth. Meaning that man is born with certain characteristics, like the ability to realize that he's hungry, right? To realize that he's hungry, he's hunger. There's something like, you know, it tells the gas tank is empty, and therefore you have to go eat it's for your benefit. But not overeating, not to be a glutton. Like, you know, if you put down the the curtain so the glutton eats, but if you raise the curtain and the king is there, then you will not eat, and you eat appropriately. Like, you know, God is asking you to fill your tank, to energize yourself, to function. And the same thing is with stolen waters. The proverb, stolen waters are sweet. Why? Because they're stolen. Stolen waters are sweet. Something that you don't have. Doesn't taste any different, but it's not yours. Tendency, you want to take something that's not yours. Inclination, an inclination of man. That's inside, inner feelings of doing wrong, as compared to the outside feelings. So here we have it. Look, there's a lot to talk about with going to death, but we want to continue on with the portion of the Torah where Joseph and Jacob were finally united, and even before that, Jacob, chapter 31 in Genesis, had his wives, and they were leaving Laban, who was tricked them into many wrong contracts, withholding wages, and he finally got rid of Lavan, and he said, we'll go away peacefully, but we'll not come back to you. And fine, okay, they lived finely. And then he was on his way to Canaan, to live peacefully. And here he gets a report that his brother Esau, whom he took the birthright of many years ago, is coming with you with 400 men, right? With 400 men. So the birthright was taken because he did not want Esau to officiate at the Bamos, or the altars that were in the area that Jews made offerings to prior to the construction of the temple. Once the temple was constructed, the Bamos were illegal. So Jacob did not want the birthright to fall to Esau, and he bought it from him. And Esau said, "What do I need this for?" Right? This is at the burial of their grandfather Abraham, right? So he felt that he was going to attack him. So he prepared for war, and as the Torah delineates, prepared for war by first praying that he didn't have to go to fight and there should be peace. Number two, he offered money, and in this case cattle and all kinds of good things that would appease Esau, right? And three, prepare for war. Well, he's preparing for war. He's dividing his camp into different factions, because if one faction survived or was destroyed, then the other faction would continue on. And what do you have? The opposite of the reformers, right? Stephen Weiss, should he rot in hell, came along the scene, the fifth columnist, and in 1939 and 40, boycott the Germans, picket them, don't buy their goods, they're no good, over and over again, boycott the embassy. And here the Jews in Germany were dying, were being killed physically. And he didn't read the Torah, just like the reformers today. What do they know? I feel it should be this way. In such a situation, the Torah says you're to appease the Esau. You're to give him money so he won't bother you, so you can save Jewish lives. And search inwardly to see where you fail. So, and then he wrestled with an angel, right? And that is an entire story. Jacob wrestled with the angel. First he had a vision of Jacob's ladder, and then he had a vision of an angel. And once you have a vision, there's always a teaching from God. Once you have a vision, there's a teaching from God. And then he wrestled with an angel, right? And he said his name will be called Yisrael, no more Jacob, but you could use the name Jacob. But then he became Yisrael. What does Yisrael mean? He bested man and God. He bested man and God. So Yisrael, he bested man and God. And so that's what happened. And so he prepared for war, and he divided his camp, and the angel, said, he wrestled with him, and he touched a sciatica nerve, and he couldn't eat that part of the cattle, and he has remembrance of our father Jacob. We have to get into these things. You got to learn Talmud. Oh, I don't know, Aleph Beit. I went to Yeshiva, that's the first thing they gave you. Talmud, but I don't know what it's talking about. Keep on plugging. You'll get a little thought here and there. That's all right. Keep on working according to the effort. So is the reward. Even if you don't put it, you don't get anything. That's all right. Effort, reward. That's what we're looking for. Reward. And then what happened? so he met Esau and they became friendly. And Esau says, "Come, let's join together. We'll work together and we'll be together." No, but Yaakov didn't want to have anything to do with him because he had bad traits, bad character traits, and he would leave his people, his family into the wrong ways. It says over there that the beginning of knowledge is the fear of heaven, and this was not going to be taught. So what happened? Yaakov finally made his way, Jacob finally made his way to Canaan, the land of Israel, and he wanted to live